And we will not allow the central bank to bring in a digital currency to control our money. We already have digital money. It's called your bank account. It's called your credit card. We got a gentleman over there. He's a little educated. Hey, listen. I'll be happy to chat with you afterwards. We'll have a conversation afterwards. Go easy on him. He's okay. I'll have a chat with this gentleman afterwards. It's all right. You know what? Look, I understand why people are so frustrated. They feel like they're under attack. They've been under attack by their government in Ottawa for too long. They're frustrated and divided and looking for a chance to speak out. I want that young man to understand that I hear his voice. I feel the pain that he's been suffering. He's a legitimate person, and he deserves the respect of our leaders. Minister means servant. I will be his servant as well.
All right, everybody. Before I continue, I'm gonna leave that up there for a second. Let me just remove it. Can everybody hear me? I'm not at home. I didn't bring my good mic. And before I get a little too far into my intro rant, I want to make sure that everyone is hearing me fine. I need a link. No. Before I get into this, before I even break down that Pierre Poilievre. Okay, good. Georgie Grisa says yes. Oh, gosh. I'm going to show you something in a second. Look at it right now. You see that fingertip? My fingertip is bruised because of what I was doing at a trampoline house today. Trying to break a record that doesn't exist or that nobody really pays attention to because nobody goes to trampoline houses and actually tries to pay attention to breaking records. Let me just freeze my thing here. Okay, I'll show that video afterwards and I'll show you why I hurt my finger. Audio's good, and I want to make sure that we're on Rumble before we get into this. Once bitten, twice shy, third time traumatized. And are we live on Locals, vivabarneslaw.locals.com. All right, some of you might be able to see that I'm in a hotel room. We had one hotel room for 2 adults, 3 kids, and 2 dogs because I'm in the Greater Toronto area at my nephew's bar mitzvah. We had to get a second room. 5 people and 2 dogs in one tiny hotel room was too much, even for the Vivas. Okay, now what was I going to say? Let's get back to that. Let's get back to that video clip just for a second before we, get into today's show. That's Pierre Poilievre at a rally. The video initially shared by Pleb the reporter. He's not my go-to because I don't have a go-to, but I do follow him on Twitter and he does put up good clips and videos. This is a video of Pierre Poilievre. Purportedly, Pleb is a heavy on the board of Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives, believes that if you vote for the PPC, you're vote splitting and you're an idiot. We've had our fights about it. We understand we will not see eye to eye on this issue. I do not believe one is ever splitting one's vote when they vote with the entirety of their spirit and their conscience. And I don't vote strategically because then you just end up saying, I'm just going to vote. I'm not going to vote for who I really want to get into office to affect the change. I'm going to vote for who I think. Welcome to the uni party system to some people. Okay. So Pierre Poilievre is at a rally and is a protester. And this is like, for the conservative bros of the plebs type, this is like, look how good Pierre Poilievre is. He says the right things, people. He says the right things, but I am a deeply cynical person and say, it's a little too perfect. It's a little too convenient. But he says the right thing.
Not allow the central bank to bring in a digital currency to control our money.
As some of you may or may not know, the Bank of Canada is holding consultations as to whether or not we implement a CBCD, Central Bank CBDC, not to be confused with CBD like cannabinoid oils. Central Digital Banking Digital Credit. I think that's it. Okay, bad idea, by the way. It's full Orwellian Big Brother control of everything and anything you do.
We already have digital money. It's called your bank account. It's called your credit card. We got a gentleman over there. He's a little educated. Hey, listen. I'll be happy to chat with you afterwards. We'll have a conversation afterwards.
What?
Go easy on him.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
First things first, by the way.
I'll have a chat with this gentleman now. It's all right.
Is that individual? I'm not saying this is an accusation because I think it might be. Is that Josh Alexander? Is that someone who might be legitimately protesting? I don't know who that is. If anybody in the chat knows who that is, the red hat and the suit looks like Josh Alexander, but I'm not sure if that's the protester.
It's all right. You know what? Look, I understand why people are so frustrated. They feel like they're under attack. They've been under attack by their government in Ottawa for too long. So they're frustrated and divided and looking for a chance to speak out. I want that young man to understand that I hear his voice.
Good.
I feel the pain that he's been suffering. He's a legitimate person, and he deserves the respect of our leaders. Minister means servant. I will be his servant as well.
That is what all politicians should understand, appreciate, and internalize. Justin Trudeau is not the servant of the people. In his own mind, he is the master of the people. He is their father. He's their big brother, and he doesn't have to address or dialogue with the ones with which he disagrees, who are just incapable of understanding the world according to Trudeau. So that's the question. Now, the question is, first of all, whoever says Rumble is not live, Rumble is live. Refresh your screen. Was that protester Josh Alexander? That's one question, because I know Josh might have legitimate grievances with Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives. It certainly looked like him, well-dressed suit, well-behaved, hands in the air, red hat. I don't know. Okay. That was the intro, because I didn't want to start with the subject that I really wanted to start with. I'm with the family, and I could not get time away to do a car vlog. And I wanted to do a car vlog, on the one hand, because I feel useless when I don't feel productive, which is either paradoxical or a truism. I feel productive when I'm productive, and I feel productive when I'm, getting breakdowns and analysis out on subjects that I think people should know about. Couldn't do it. Absolutely just not enough time. And I, bit off more than I could chew in terms of what I could do while at a family event with the kids. I'm going to share the link to Rumble. Oh, that's what I forgot to do. I forgot to pin the link to Rumble in the YouTube chats. Here, let me do that. I'm going to do that right now. Link to Rumble. Here. Boom shakalaka. There it is. Okay. I'm going to bring up the tweet, and then we're going to break this down. People have lost their ability to think critically, and those with the ability are able to exploit other people's lack of critical thinking capabilities. Case in point, Mehdi Hassan, as many of you might know him, the MSN propagandist, the taker down of reporters in his own mind. He's the reporter slayer, because he got Matt Taibbi on his channel and bombarded him with attacks and overwhelmed him. And he scored a big fat W because he thought that he publicly lambasted and humiliated Matt Taibbi so that he no longer had to focus on and pay attention to the actual scandal that is the Twitter files. Donald Trump made the news again on Truth Social by posting this. This was his truth post. Congratulations to Kim Jong-un. Complimenting, praising, it would seem, Kim Jong-un. Why? This is a true story, and we're going to get to it in a second. North Korea granted position on the World Health Organization's some prestigious board. I'll get to it in a second. So Donald Trump says, congratulations to Kim Jong-un, and the propagandists out there, those who suffer from the highest forms of Trump derangement syndrome, say things like this: in any normal world, this would disqualify a candidate from running for president for either the Democrats or for the Republicans, but not in America in 2023. Because it would seem that some people are refusing to understand the underlying point here. Now, I came out and said that people's minds are broken, that if people don't understand that this is a form of sarcasm, then they are failing to understand what is going on. I said, this is clearly sarcastic, and people don't really appreciate why or what is meant by that. People come out and say, I'm not making fun of anybody. These are legitimate points that we have to address if we take a position. And someone says, look, he's not being sarcastic. He's repeatedly referred to Kim Jong-un as his friend right here. This is a tweet or a Trump Truth Social thing from Trump. Rob, my red button is bigger, better, stronger, and is working. Truth. Yours does not. Per my conversation with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, soon to become my friend. I couldn't find the other one. There's another one when Trump refers to Kim Jong-un as a friend. Whether or not you think that Trump is referring to a murderous dictator of a hermit kingdom as a friend in the literal, like, haha, let's have a barbecue sense, or in the political, he's going to be a political friend and I'm going to get this dictator to ease up the oppression on his own people, or whether or not you think it's totally sarcastic. Let's just say that we'll agree to disagree and put it in the middle. I'll concede that Trump is using the term friend, but maybe in the political sense, I need to keep my enemies close. And, you know, it's a way of wooing politically someone into dialogue, discourse, the international community by referring to him as a friend. We're going to be friends, yada, yada. Let's even say that he thinks that way of Kim Jong-un. Those who have a memory, or those who are remotely educated, know that Trump does not think highly of the WHO. In fact, he loathes the WHO. Everybody knows. I just accepted the cookies, and I didn't mean to do that. Trump loathes the WHO. He knows, has publicly said, it is a corrupt, incompetent, China-centric organization that seeks to basically strip nations of their autonomy and subject them to the New World Order, a one world government, a globalist institution. He said this repeatedly. When he was president, he announced his withdrawal from the World Health Organization. And I've got to say, mechanistically, I don't know what that looks like and how that operates. But he certainly said, we're going to withdraw. We're going to stop funding the WHO. In the same way, we're going to stop funding NATO, because the West is funding these institutions that are taking their money and then effectively acting in a manner that's against the interests of the West. He said this. Anybody who knows this would understand where I'm going with this. Anybody who doesn't know this needs to understand that which they don't know before taking a hard position on a current issue. This is from 2020. He said that he would make good on his threat to withdraw from the World Health Organization, an unprecedented move that could undermine the global coronavirus response and make it more difficult to stamp out other diseases and threats. Because I think the word corrupt is in here. Is it? Yeah. Because everybody knows that there's this talk of this international treaty that should scare the living pants out of everybody, of, you know, basically nations subordinating their national autonomy to the WHO. So Trump hates the WHO, threatened to withdraw from it, said he would, and then the Biden administration came back and reiterated their commitment to stay in the WHO. If someone regards someone as a friend, would they sincerely congratulate them for joining an institution or being appointed to an institution that they don't like? Maybe. Maybe. Others might understand that when you congratulate someone on having been appointed to an institution that you think is a corrupt, loathsome institution that you should withdraw from, maybe there's something more to that compliment, and it's not actually a compliment, but maybe something of an insult. If not to Kim Jong-un, because you think he sincerely means that they're buddy-buddy, friends, maybe it's a critique of the WHO. And so what ends up happening is you get the Mehdi Hassans of the world and all those other anti-Trumpers. Not that I'm a pro-Trumper, I just understand things as to how they're meant and intended. But you get people coming out and saying Trump is an actual, he's an authoritarian dictator. Look what he's doing. He's complimenting his buddy Kim Jong-un. It's offensive. He's complimenting a murderous dictator. How awful is that? And they don't understand that if they acknowledge that Kim Jong-un is a murderous dictator, which I think we can all acknowledge that he is, well, then they are necessarily saying the WHO just appointed North Korea and Kim Jong-un to their board. I forget, geez, I should have brought up what it was, to whatever position it is that they just brought the North Korea in. So you condemn Trump for praising a dictator that the WHO just appointed or gave a seat on a board within the WHO, and you don't understand exactly what you're saying. And possibly, maybe just possibly, because Trump might be a whole lot of things, dumb he is not, maybe, just maybe, you are understanding the point that Trump is trying to bring out here. Compliment a murderous dictator on having joined the WHO. Everyone rails against you for complimenting a murderous dictator. And lo and behold, at some point at the end of this equation, you're going to have to understand that there might be a problem with the WHO right now. If they are appointing murderous dictator regimes to their institutions, it might be an institution to withdraw from. Maybe, just maybe. Maybe I'm totally wrong because I'm totally, ultra MAGA extreme Republican. Okay, Barnes is in the backdrop. Cheryl Gage if the sea aquarium closed, what would happen to the animals? So I just put out a documentary, a mini documentary on my Viva family channel. I went to the Miami Sea Aquarium to watch Phil Damaris do a protest. And then Phil says, you got to go in there and see it for yourself. And I went in and I saw it for myself. There are alternative housing for some of the animals, and some animals like manatees, I think, could be released into the wild. They're not, I don't know, and I'm definitely not an expert, but like manatees, even according to those who know at the urgencies, they sit there and eat grass. It's not like an orca, which has to hunt in a pod. And if it's not done that in 50 years, it'll forget how to do it. So there's that. It's a horrible, horrible, depressing place. People's Pundit was defamed on Twitter in RB Mail. Okay, I'm going to have to see that. Oh, Barnes just disconnected himself. Let me do the standard intro stuff. So I took the initiation for the indication. Hold on, my goodness. So I took the initiation for the induction into the order of Winstonism and had a sheet on the kitchen floor. My wife is divorcing me. Okay, thank you, Brad. Okay, so standard disclaimers, by the way. No medical advice, no election fortification advice, no legal advice. Those things you see, super chats and Rumble rants. YouTube takes 30% of all super chats. Super chats. Rumble ordinarily takes 20% of them, but they're not taking them for the rest of the year. 100% goes to the creator. After that, Rumble's going to take his 20%. Still a better cut and better to support a platform that supports free speech, as we all know now. I'm rushing because I want to bring Barnes in, but you may have noticed it said, did it say it? Son of a beasting. Hold on one second. I know that I put this in. Yes, I did put it in. It contains a paid promotion. So you should have seen that thing already. The paid sponsor, the sponsor of tonight's stream, it's my sponsor. It's Field of Greens. Many of you don't know. You're supposed to have between 5 and 7 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Let me see. And when you can't have that, what's the best alternative? You have to have raw fruits and veggies. They help with digestion, fiber, nutrients, antioxidants. And if you don't get your 5 to 7 servings of raw fruits and vegetables a day, and even if you do, Field of Greens, 1 spoonful twice a day will give you 1 serving of the good stuff, antioxidants, vegetables, fruits. It'll give you 1 serving with each scoop, so you'll get 2 servings a day. It is not an extract. It's not a supplement. It's desiccated, dried, pulverized fruits and vegetables. It tastes great. It looks like swamp water, which I always say because swamp water is high in nutrients, as is Field of Greens. So made in America, USDA organic approved. I use it. It's like Joe Rogan says, it's easy for me because I actually use it. I actually like it. They're a great company, made in America, and it's healthy and a healthy alternative to otherwise bad habits. So go to the website, Viva. It's fieldofgreens.com. It'll bring you to Brickhouse Nutrition. Promo code Viva, you get 15% off your first order. The link is in the pinned comment or the chat thing. The description. It's in the description. Okay, now with that said, what else was there? There was nothing. I'm bringing Barnes in. Robert, sir, get ready. 3, 2, 1. Robert, how goes the battle? Hold on. Are you muted or am I muted? No, I think you might be muted. Chat, is Robert muted or is it me? Let me see here. Barnes. Try it again. Mike. Oh, it might be me. Hold on one second. I'm an idiot. Let me go into settings. Sorry about that. Let me just see. I don't. But no, I heard you. Audio, mic, speaker. So hold on. Is it Barnes is muted? Okay, nobody can hear you, Barnes. Nope. While Robert does that, let me see here. It says, I'm trying to watch on Rumble, but it keeps buffering while YouTube doesn't. YouTube it is. Yeah. Anyways, Rumble's going through growing pains and they'll figure it out, but we'll take a note. Robert, I think I hear you now.
Good.
All right. Robert, look, let me get my camera down here. I hate this flipping camera. It keeps going on facial tracking, which I don't want it to do. Okay, track my face. Come down here. Okay, stop. Robert, I'm being accused of being like a Magadonian. I don't even know what the term is. Am I right or am I wrong about what Trump is trying to do by saying congratulations, Kim Jong-un, on being appointed to the WHO Hall of Fame?
Oh, yeah, obviously.
Okay, I feel like an idiot because you get called enough names on the internet. At some point, you might start to believe some of them. Okay, fine, done. And now he says, Kim Jong-un and him are friends. Am I giving Trump too much of the benefit of the doubt, or is he talking politics about keeping enemies closer and trying to woo them through some form of flattery because that's how Donald Trump works to some extent?
Well, he tried to do a peace deal with North Korea originally, and he would like to do one again. So that's what that's about.
Okay, excellent. Robert, again, we're going to start on something here, but what do we have on the menu for tonight? Oh, sorry. First of all, 1775. I guess I can see the book behind you. What's it about?
That's by Kevin Phillips, about the American Revolution, the build up to it, the ideas and the people that helped create it, the founders being more than just the people that signed the Declaration of Independence. It's a good book about what ideas influenced them and shaped them in that process. So yeah, good. A highly recommended book by Kevin Phillips.
Excellent. And what's your cigar?
You know, to be honest with you, I don't know. I took the label off. I always take the label off because I find it annoying. So I don't keep them on.
Is it an accurate rule of cigar smoking that you're only supposed to smoke it up to the label? That's what it. That's
Not that I know of. I mean, I smoke it until I can't.
Okay. Everyone says, is the Rumble connection available? It's the pinned comment in the chat, and we are live. I see it right now. We are nearing 10,000 on Rumble already, which is fantastic. All right, Robert, what's on the menu for tonight?
First, we got a couple of bonus topics off the top. Tara Reade has to seek amnesty in Russia for fear of Biden persecution. Then another one, a debate popped up between Vivek, I won't try to pronounce his last name, and Dave Rubin on the Florida so-called hate speech law. So we can cover that briefly as well off the top. Then our core 12 topics tonight are we have the Supreme Court has a trio of decisions. We have trans suits. We have Disney judge recusals. We have Trump judge recusals being sought. Project Veritas is the big topic tonight.
Oh, yeah.
That's suing James O'Keefe. Google healthcare provider tracking, right to a public trial, Arkansas book ban lawsuit, or library book ban lawsuit, the unconstitutionality of the death penalty for juveniles in Tennessee, that has some broader ramifications about cruel and unusual punishment under the 8th Amendment. When the second most popular topic on the board, when can the state take away your child custody rights as a parent? That issue went up before the Tennessee Supreme Court this past week as well. Fluoride lawsuit. You know, they are trying to mess around with our precious bodily fluids. Abortion ban unconstitutional in both conservative states, South Carolina and Oklahoma. What does that mean or preview for the future of heartbeat bills in America at the state court level? We got a fun little case about gourmet nuts and when they're not so gourmet. Though the nut part might relate to a certain Carolyn B. That might be a relevant reference.
I wasn't going to mention it. I don't care about this. It's fun stuff. We'll talk about it when we get into the Project Veritas.
And then a Manson accomplice paroled. And then there's one other potential bonus case tonight.
Yeah, the Manson one's actually very interesting when we get to that because it's there's the Manson parole overruled by Gavin Newsom as well as Sirhan.
And this one, the California Court of Appeals overturned Governor Newsom.
Okay, what do we start with for the bonus? Can we start with
Tara Reade?
Tara Reade, and we're going to do Tara Reade and Vivek.
And the Florida hate speech laws.
Yeah, and the Florida hate speech on YouTube and Rumble. Then we're going to end this on YouTube and go over to Rumble. Robert, I think I talked about it last week, but Tara Reade had to flee to Russia, or she goes to Russia as a tourist, gets there and says, I'd like to stay here now because I was told by Republican lawmakers that I'm in danger in America. Now, I took for granted that the second you come out against the machine, the Democrat machine, above and beyond lawfare, they have other types of fare that I won't get into. But I suspected that she had to have been getting political hate, despite getting affirmed in the truth of her statements by Lisa Bloom. Lisa Bloom is Gloria Allred's daughter, right?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So she gets affirmation from high up political players, lawyers. Lisa Bloom acknowledges, we all knew it happened to you. Joe Biden is handsy. Tara Reade, for those of you who don't know, is the one who accused Joe Biden of having sexually assaulted her back in the early 90s or mid 90s while she was working on the campaign. Apparently, everybody knew about it. She says she filed a complaint at the time, but there's no record of that. But her husband in a lawsuit talked about how Tara Reade mentioned this. When she comes out and says this in 2020, she gets shunned, mocked by the George Takeis of the world. It went from #MeToo to #ShutTheHellUp. And now she says she doesn't feel safe, or she implies that a Republican lawmaker told her she was in danger. Now, I don't know what is meant by that. Do you have any understanding or more knowledge as to what type of danger she might have been in? Political, lawfare, or physical?
Legal, that she would be locked up. That essentially she was apprised is that there is a grand jury investigation to indict her, looking at using violation of Russian-Ukraine sanctions as the pretext to do so. Part of a talking point of the Biden campaign, all the way back to the publication of her accusations, was that she was some sort of Russian agent. So apparently they've been tracking that path. She, I believe, has a book out, went over to Russia to do interviews promoting the book, and then was told while she was over there that if she came back, there was a undue risk that she would be arrested, detained pending trial, and charged with a federal crime and locked up. And it was based on her getting that information from multiple sources, politically connected and legally connected sources, that led her to take the extraordinary action of not coming back and seeking amnesty in Russia. And this comes in the context of the broader storyline of all kinds of whistleblowers being targeted. We have had congressional testimony of FBI whistleblowers who say they've been targeted. We have IRS whistleblowers who've had to try to hide out because they've been targeted. We have the big case of someone who filed a detailed report detailing Biden's crime of bribery in exchange for favors to a foreign government that led FBI Director Reade to try to withhold the document under threat of contempt of Congress, and only folded this week when he was about to be held in contempt of Congress. So we have other whistleblowers who've said they've had to become fugitives and disappear because of threats from the Biden administration. So this is becoming part of a broad pattern. Joe Biden was famous for saying nobody messes with the Bidens, that he pays them back, that he weaponizes the legal system to do so. And let's look at the other people involved, the people who had Ashley Biden's diary detailing the very scuzzy behavior of Joe Biden as a father to her. What happened to those people who got that diary and tried to then go into federal prison?
Yep.
So this is part of a pattern now. James O'Keefe, for possibly publicizing the bribery, was put under federal criminal investigation in the Southern District of New York. So now, name the question isn't what whistleblower isn't threatened by the Justice Department or is being threatened. It's which one isn't. Name a whistleblower against the Biden administration that is not has publicly stated under penalty of perjury, their testimony, under statements to Congress, under statements to the press, where they have said that they have been targeted for retaliation by the Biden Justice Department. This is the same Biden Justice Department trying to find a way, already have conducted a raid on his leading political opponent and former President Donald Trump, but is now trying to drum up the possible basis of criminal prosecution and criminal indictment of his opponent in the upcoming, right before the upcoming election, when he is losing to that candidate and past prior president of the United States. So, we're seeing the complete lack of restraint by the Biden Justice Department in weaponizing their position to go after anyone who exposes the corruption or malfeasance of the Biden administration. And Tara Reade is sadly just the latest example of it.
And now that you mentioned it, I'm thinking out loud. You got the Ukrainian documents, the gamer guy there who leaked the documents, going to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Tara Reade, I actually didn't appreciate that was the rationale behind what she was referring to. You got Matt Taibbi, who gets a visit from the IRS the day that he's testifying before Congress. Is it to suggest, Robert, that some Republican lawmakers understand that there might be a grand jury that's been summoned under seal?
Yeah, that there's a grand jury active looking at Tara Reade.
It's unbelievable. It's now gone from hashtag Me Too to hashtag Lock Her Up, but not in the way that. So, oh my goodness. Okay.
So yeah, that's where the insanity stands. I would note, name me the Russians that have fled to America saying Vladimir Putin is trying to go after them. There's almost none.
Well,
right?
some might say that.
What we have accused Russia of is what the United States is currently guilty of, as the January 6th cases prominently demonstrate.
So, some people might say they can't flee; they're already in jail, like that journalist for 25 years. But the journalist gets jailed for 25 years. Robert, the people's ability to rationalize the injustice. I point out, I don't defend Russia. I'm not Russian to Russia either. but they jail a journalist for 25 years, and then they jail, the Oath Keeper guy for 18 years. And someone says, well, that one is totally bogus. It was, they fabricated the charges against that journalist. I was like, dude, do you not understand how this works? Like, I'm sure Vladimir Putin says what that guy said was seditious undermining of democracy, in the exact same way they said what Rhodes did was seditious conspiracy. They just don't understand it, or they do, and they play the intellectual games to get away with their injustice while condemning others. So that's Tara Reade. Okay, fascinating. I mean, you have any idea what goes into asking for asylum or asking for citizenship from Putin?
It follows the Russian legal process, but it's my understanding she's likely to receive the amnesty from the Russian government because of the current political situation that exists.
And does that, if you know, does that immediately result in a revocation of her U.S. passport, or does she have to renounce that?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, that's interesting.
You can be both a U.S. citizen and a Russian citizen.
All right, fascinating. People should probably understand that before they jump on the bandwagon of actually demonizing Tara Reade and calling her an agent of Russia, because she has to flee the lawfare persecution regime of the Democrats, or at least of Joe Biden. All right, Robert, let's get into the Vivek thing. Let me see if I bring this up. This is it. This is community notes. This is Vivek. The video does not match the caption of the tweet. In the video, he's talking about the primordial value of free speech, and I agree with what he says in the video. Free speech, it doesn't exist to protect the speech you like. It exists to protect the speech you don't like, and you have to take it with its risks and inconveniences if you believe you live in a free society. It's the tweet on the top, which I thought was longer and more, I hope this is the right tweet, where Vivek Ramaswamy, that's not so hard, Ramaswamy says, DeSantis signed a hate speech bill earlier this year at his donor's request. I'd like to know what he means by that, if there's any truth to that. I respectfully disagree. The right answer to bad speech isn't less speech, it's more speech. That's the American way. I'm not sure if this is the right tweet, but
no,
Vivek,
that's the right tweet.
Okay, so Vivek is suggesting that there was this bill passed that suppresses freedom of speech by criminalizing hate speech. And unless I'm mistaken, I'll go to, this is Ruben's clarification for the community notes that I thought I saw there yesterday, but I don't see them anymore. House Bill 269 builds upon Governor DeSantis' record of safeguarding the free exercise of religion in Florida by prohibiting a person from intentionally dumping litter onto private property. That has to do with the flyers. Prohibiting a person from willfully and maliciously harassing, threatening, or intimidating another person based on the person's wearing or display of any indicia related to any religious or ethnic heritage. Seems reasonable. Creating a new prohibition against displaying or projecting using any medium an image onto a building. Okay, fine. Without the consent of the owner of the building. I think that's where it gets into the important details. Creating a new trespass offense if a person who is not authorized, licensed, yada, 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 enters a campus for the state of the union, threatening or intimidating another person and is warned to depart, refuses to do so. Robert, as far as I understand of that new legislation, it prohibits what they call hate speech, the distribution of it on private property. Am I oversimplifying it, or is that one facet and there's another facet that I'm missing?
Well, it doesn't even legally prohibit that. So I think the problem that arose is how DeSantis and some of the supporters sold the bill. So DeSantis signed the bill in Israel, which was weird already, and then said he had banned anti-Semitism or something to that effect. That's how it was interpreted in Israel. And it's like, you can't ban anti-Semitism. So it was DeSantis, eager for a vote. He reminds me more and more of George Wallace, a guy who would do anything to get a vote. But that was one of my trivia questions on Twitter this week: is who is the judge who is the most racially liberal judge in Alabama in the 1950s, and also became governor with the first elected governor of Alabama with majority black support. And the answer, of course, is George Corley Wallace, which would surprise many people. Both of those facts would surprise many people about Wallace. But Wallace just loved votes. That's more than it. He'd sell any part of his soul to get a few more votes. Good old George Corley. But had some strong populist traditions mixed in with the whoring for the deep state and other things at different times in his tenure, depending on which time you're talking about. But that's what. And then the other thing is the context. The context is that Vivek's criticism about donor-based support is that certain groups wanted him to do this in order to quash people who are putting out anti-Semitic flyers throughout Florida and a purported rise in anti-Semitic crimes in Florida. And so that part of Vivek's criticism is fair enough, but the law itself doesn't restrict speech really at all. The law itself just takes laws that are already on the books. Remember, we were discussing this with people back about the Rumble rules, saying the First Amendment has never allowed you to stalk people, never allowed you to libel people, never allowed you to do what's called true threats, various forms of intimidation, obstruction, harassment. Sexual harassment is speech, still not allowed, right?
So is fraud. Like, people don't fraudulent misrepresentations is speech, but we don't tolerate that.
Correct. The First Amendment is free speech, but not all. But it doesn't protect speech that crosses certain lines. It's never been immunity for stalking, harassment, threatening, violence, or anything like that. So the key is true threats. So all they really did is they said your home, a memorial. This is really targeting a particular right-wing group. Remember that group that went up before the U.S. Supreme Court protesting funerals? They basically almost created. It's fair to say they created a kind of safe space law, but on college campuses, in your home, and at a memorial service, you're now not allowed to do things that are already criminal in Florida. I mean, I'm not a big fan of creating new crimes all the time. It's like now we have a super duper crime. It's like, okay. I'm not a big fan of hate crimes in general, because they just tend to elevate the purpose of the crime beyond the crime itself. Deserves its own punishment, is my view. And let's punish based upon the crime, not the purpose of the crime, in my general opinion. But nothing about this impinges on the First Amendment, because all it does is it follows true threats jurisprudence. I would like the law better if it would explicitly incorporate the true threats jurisprudence of the U.S. Supreme Court. So to give an example, years ago, Virginia banned burning cross if the purpose of burning the cross on someone's property was to intimidate them. U.S. Supreme Court said burning crosses can be politically protected, but not doing it for the purposes of threatening or intimidating someone. So it all fits the true threats jurisprudence. Your right to speech is not a right to go into somebody else's home and threaten and intimidate them. So Andrew Torba, the Jew hater, was explaining, but now we can't circulate flyers. And yeah, you can circulate flyers you want. Here's what you can't do. You can't knowingly go to a Jewish person's home and put an anti-Semitic flyer on their door for the purpose of intimidating them. That's what you can't do. You can actually put it on their door if your purpose isn't intimidating them, if you don't know that they're Jewish. But what you can't do is target Jewish people and say, by the way, we hate you and you should die, and do it on their front door. That's what you can't do. You never could do that. I mean, the law in Florida already criminalized this. All they did is enhance it, from a one level misdemeanor to a higher level misdemeanor, from a high level misdemeanor to a lower level felony. But it requires the person do it willfully. It requires the person do it maliciously. It requires the person do it intentionally. It requires the person's purpose being directing at them to do threatening something illegal, illicit against them, if they take certain legal actions. And so in that regard, there's nothing about this that violates the First Amendment that I see. So the Florida hate speech law has been exaggerated in its interpretation by in some case, I don't think Vivek's a bad faith actor, but Andrew Torb is a bad faith actor, the founder of Gab. I mean, he finally quit emailing me his latest anti-Jew rant every month.
Because Barnes, you might not be a Jew, but you can be Jewish.
Oh yeah. Remember, I'm a goy, either goyim or whatever they call me.
I hate that word. I hate that word.
I had no idea. I have no idea what any of these words mean. Though I still love the meme of me as a rabbi and Nick Fuentes as a crazy Islamist. Fundamentalist. That's my favorite meme from that past debate. So the people, Nick Fuentes can go on a college campus and speak whatever he wants. What he can't do is go there for the purposes of threatening and intimidating someone, effectively stalking. Think of stalking, and like the criminal definition of, I would have liked it better if they would include actual definitions of the word intimidation, harassment, and threat in the statutes. But there are other laws and First Amendment principles already established, including in Florida, under the Florida State Constitution and the U.S. Constitution, that do give definition and limitation to those words. And it's basically you have to direct it at an individual. It has to be imminent. It has to be specific. It has to be to do something illicit or illegal that you're not legally permitted or authorized to do. So all the talk of the Jew haters, how they no longer have free speech, is utterly false. They just can no longer do something that they never could do, which is stalk, harass, intimidate, or commit crimes.
And this was my original assessment back in the day when Jordan Peterson was sounding the alarm on our Bill C-16, which added, misgendering to aggravating factors for certain crimes. And my view at the time was, well, they're only clarifying something which you already can't do. Like misgendering someone, like saying on Twitter, I'm not going to refer to Dylan Mulvaney as her. Well, that people say, well, it's gonna end up covering that. Where I said at the time, look, if you deliberately go up to someone and say he, and you follow them and you send them emails and you send them letters, the misgendering is the secondary aspect of the harassment. Unfortunately, others were saying it's too ambiguous and it's going to be used to effectively criminalize speech. And in Canada, that's what's effectively happened. My issue is, to create new laws when you already have the existing laws, it creates ambiguity where some are going to say, well, what if I already had the existing law and this does nothing new? Why is it there? And some bad faith actors are going to say, well, this is something new and this is how we have to use it. And I think that this is intimidating. I think when you said X, Y, and Z, you were doing it to intimidate, and that's how it gets abused to suppress and silence free speech.
Yeah, that's where the concerns come from. But here, the statute does have a lot of protections built into it, and already has additional ones in the case law, such that there's very little risk of that occurring. It really can't occur under the statute. That all they really did is right now, intimidation, for example, usually requires some unlawful purpose. They've clarified what an unlawful purpose is, but it was already there under the law, in my view. They just added. Really, what they did is make it clear you can't do this on somebody's home. You can't do this at memorial service. You can't do it on a college campus. That was already true. They just made it so there's no doubt about the fact that those are spaces in which you can't go and intimidate people. You can't go and harass people. You can't go and threaten people. Again, all of that already a crime. And they also said if you do it for this purpose, now it has a higher punishment is all.
Apparently they've stopped making bugs. I don't know that that's true. Just bringing it up as we make our way over to Rumble, people. We're going to go over to Rumble. Are we starting with Project Veritas on Rumble?
Supreme Court.
Okay, good. So everybody...
We go Supreme Court. There's a suit about trans rights, judicial recusals, and then we'll get to SCOTUS.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Then Project Veritas.
Project Veritas. Okay, so we're doing it, people. Removing from YouTube, where I will publish all of this in its entirety or highlights. The Justin Trudeau highlight finally got remonetized and fully visible. Nearly 250,000 views of people who did not know the history of the Justin Trudeau's.
Yeah, that photo was enlightening.
Oh my god! If there were only one photo, the photo was so bad. I need confirmation that it's not like a fake. It's not. I need. Okay, ending on YouTube, people. Head on.